Okay, so the name tag, you're going to bring this file in order to illustrate this with the pen tool and creating different shapes to build up your logo, and then we're going to try coloring it with live paint. Some of you may have tried, and give you a little bit of a look to that. The first thing is to get a file new document, and as the window shows up, you want to take a look at the parameters that it has, the recent saved. I'm just going to click on the print document just to get it started. Here's the letter, which is giving this information in points, and if I click on this I can go to the unit of measure to inches, and it's 8.5 by 11, but it's vertical, so I just want to make it a horizontal just by clicking on the orientation and click on create for starters, and then just go to file, place to locate your name tag and see if this section comes up. Now you have yours on your desktop, so you should be situated okay. So they come in a gang piece like this, so you just have to locate the one that has yours to it and go ahead and place that in here. And when it comes, just click, don't drag. If you click and drag, you have to rescale it, so I'm just going to click so it shows up on the screen. And this is the part where I now have the layer that I can lock it and put a new layer above it to work on the graphic section down there. And depending on if you think you can draw with that, I'm going to double click. I can dim this image down so it is a little bit softer to see on this section here. So that'll give me this piece. So I've started a little bit of it before, and just want to show it to you, a little section here, a couple things that you can try. And I'll dim this part down before trying to color it. With the layer that's highlighted for the graphics, the pen tool I have.
Please excuse this interruption. The 8th grade tour buses have arrived. Tours will begin
section.
Shortly.
So as I click on this, I'm going to go beyond this section to create this, clicking that arrow. And right now I'm just kind of concerned about the path right now. I can always go back and change this, but I just want to get some practice at locating and illustrating this with the pen tool as it comes across. So when I do something like this segment, just holding the command key down to deselect it, clicking and dragging the handle out first to get a little bit of the path coming in, and then clicking on this side. So this part I'm going to have as a frame on the outside, so I'm not worried about that overlapping. If I release the mouse, I can still, that point is still highlighted. I can use the arrow keys to move it across. If I need to move it around, I can always use the direct selection tool to start to move some of the points around. But again, if I click and drag the handles out first, it'll give me a little bit of the curve ahead of time. And just clicking command and turning that part off. Same on this, I may want to go to the midpoint of this in order to start some of that path. And letting go and letting that arrow key move that last point across. Okay, so right now the stroke, if I keep this part open, is giving me the point size. I can always decrease this amount. It goes to 0.5, 0.7. You can set this number in there so you can see the point size difference to that, if that's a concern. And as we go through this, we'll come back to show some of the ways to modify the point handles using a brush and using the width tool to create a little bit more variety into the thickness and thinness of the line. And also showing you some of the text where you can actually type out the text and use some of the text as well as creating the shape. So just to show you that section, just kind of zoom into this character here. As I click and drag, you can kind of see the interior line is the one I'm following. So in order to set a corner point, I have to click on it, come to this midsection out here. And I'm just going to go right underneath that letter because I'm going to just worry about the overlapping later. You can see it sets a curve. If I come back, you may like that, but if you're trying to keep it accurate to your drawing, just hold the Option key and that sets it as a corner point. You can see the corners of this are related to the way the corners are connected, whether it's going to be a rounded corner here, a straight edge cut across, or a point. And you have the width tool, if you remember from before, where you can come in, hold the if you don't hold the option, it puts the thickness on either side. If I hold the option, it'll go to the side that I'm dragging. Okay, so as you keep that in mind, if you do the interior exterior line, so you can do that as well. So it's just kind of building that section up. If you can't change that, once you use the width tool, you can't go back and change the thickness, so you want to do that ahead of time. If I take a look at the text, I'll just do a couple letters. Just click down here, cap locks, and just do a T. Okay, there. And take a look at this part. So what I've done is I've just taken the font. I'm going to come back to here and maybe just still go to a simple Helvetica bold. So here's Helvetica bold. Swap it out so I just have the lines, and I can use the type. Since I tried to draw it as best I could, I can also use the pen tool, but this assures that I have the thickness going straight across. I'm just going to set a copy off to the side by duplicating it with the Option key. And in this part, under Type, you have Create Outlines, and what happens is that the type is now a path with no longer editable sections. I'll just hit the Tab key. And now I have that section based off of this piece. If I click on the Direct Selection tool, I can click on this piece and start to move the letters if I want to adjust them. Okay, if I click and move this, it's still connected, but if I go to Object and ungroup this, and then click off of it, this letter and this letter are all separate, so I can move these, rotate these around, and position them into the spot that I have chosen up to the top. So I can bring this letter T up here, put it like into the corner. I'm just going to hit the Tab key to get the rotation tool, if you know the keystroke, and just click, and I can now set the center there and just rotate this letter and now expand it and see. Make sure I just have that letter. I can expand this letter to see if it's going to match anything close. It's a little off, so I can go back and just grab the Direct Selection tool and pin that. So if your type is pretty close to a font, you can do this. If it's not, it's just as easy to go ahead and use the pen tool to illustrate it. Okay, so that's one of the options that you have. The Tab key I'm just hitting to hide that section. So it's probably just as easy for me to go ahead and click and connect these persons right across there. If I do the letter A, for example, right now it's on top of this, can't tell, but I'm just going to do the inside of it. And if you notice that when you do that, this section and this section, if I give it a color, they both have the same color. I'll click on the inside one. And now you have the option of using the Pathfinder to go back and take these two out and adjust that piece. So here's the Pathfinder to punch that section out. So see if you can take your image, place it into a file, and start to work on a layer above it with the pen tool to create your graphic. Overlapping things is fine, and we'll do live painting of it later.